Hi, this is Tim Brunson. I'm here today with Jeff Waldrep. He's the fire marshal for Anniston, Alabama. Jeff, when I was shooting video with the fire department a few months ago, a comment was made about how people sometimes don't use their smoke detectors correctly. Can you share some ideas on that?
Sure. A lot of times when we have emergencies, we show up and we see smoke detectors that basically they've taken the battery out of, opened the compartment, just disabled them in some way.
So either they don't have them, or they've not kept the batteries changed regularly, or there's no batteries at all in them.
That's correct.
So you screw with your smoke detector, and good chance you're going to die, you and your family.
Absolutely. It's in correlation with the fire deaths, with the ones that doesn't have smoke detectors in their homes. That rate really increases dramatically.
Okay, so that leads to the question that, normally I've always waited till, of course it's always 3 o'clock in the morning, the battery starts chirping, and I said, okay, and the lady I bought this house from said that she went downstairs a few days before we made a contract or made an offer to her, and she just got a ladder and disconnected it.
Sure.
That happens too much. So how often should someone change the battery?
Well, in FPA, they recommend you change the battery when the time changes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of our philosophy. And then another way to kind of look at it as once a year on your birthday, change that battery. People think that that's a way for someone to remember to change that battery, because it's really difficult to remember to do something once or twice a year.
Okay.
So that kind of helps.
Well, we're shooting this video on Halloween, and my birthday is the 2nd, so either I change it tomorrow, or in 2 days rather, or I change it when the time zone change, or the time changes this weekend, which is November 5th. Okay, so that's pretty good advice.
Yeah, so I think my thing is pick whichever way you're going to do it and stick with that. Get a routine going.
Good advice. So Jeff, we were talking a minute ago about changing the batteries and when to change them. But once I started researching it and knowing that for my house I didn't have enough detectors, I started finding out there's more than one kind. I saw the smoke detectors and some that have CO2, and of course I have one here that does both.
Correct.
So what kind of smoke detector should I be purchasing?
Well, there's two basic types of smoke detectors.
Mm-hmm.
There's an ionization and a photosization. The ionization detector, it basically detects a open flame type situation.
Mm-hmm.
And the photo one, it detects more of like a smoldering type fire.
Right.
So if you want to cover your bases, you can look for that combination that has both type of sensors in it and get that type detector.
Okay. One other thing I found out, I talked about my bad habits of, I don't disconnect my alarms like some people do and probably end up risking their families. But what I do is, in the past, I have always changed when the chirping starts. Now I'm going to change it when the time changes.
Sure.
But the other thing I learned was the fact that the smoke detectors expire. And I pulled out one that I found that I never put up years ago when I had another house, and it said on here that this one here, it said on here that the expiration date's 2016.
Correct.
So how often should we be checking to see whether our smoke detector is expired?
On average, a smoke detector is good for 10 years from the manufacturer's date. Now there are two different types of smoke detectors. One, a conventional type that takes a regular AA battery or a 9-volt battery.
Yeah.
Yes. Those expire in 10 years. Mm-hmm. And at that 10-year mark, you want to replace the whole detector.
So it's not the battery issue then, which you should replace every 6 months.
Correct.
Or at least every year. Mm-hmm. It's the sensor goes bad?
Yeah. Over time, you know, if you can think about it this way, over time when that detector's up,
Mhm.
it gets, you know, a little dust collected on the sensors, different things like that, just with normal use of the house. So after 10 years, it's probably pretty well coated and needs to be replaced, and that's where they come up with the 10-year mark.
And on one of these, I also saw something on the box that said you should vacuum your detectors occasionally.
Correct.
Just make sure the holes are good.
Yeah, just on the outside, you can see the holes there. Just take your vacuum and vacuum over that. That's back to what I was talking about, the dust collects there.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of what you can't vacuum actually gets up inside. That's why you're going to replace it in 10 years.
Now, I just bought 4 of these detectors the other day, and these do CO2. You didn't mention that earlier.
Correct.
And also, there's a manufacturer's date on here, 2015. So this should be good for 10 years from 2015. I shouldn't wait till the battery stops working. This has got a 10-year lithium battery.
Right. A lot of the new detectors have a 10-year lithium-ion battery, which lasts that 10 years. That's why you only see a manufacturer's date and not a expiration date, because then the battery lasts for 10 years, the detector lasts for 10 years, so you know to purchase a new one at the end of that 10 years.
Yeah, that's, you know, again, I'm bad habit. I always change it when it starts getting annoying, and never thought about about vacuuming it, or the fact that the detector just expires.
Yes, sir.
So, you know, as we said up front, is last thing I want to find out during a fire that we had a fire in the house, but my detectors didn't work.
That's correct. A lot of people, they don't realize that detector expires. You know, I hear a lot of people that really don't know that.
Okay. So we talked about changing the batteries and expiration date, but where do I need to have them? Because obviously when I bought this house, I only had them in a couple of the bedrooms,
Right.
and at the bottom of the stairs in the basement, going down to the basement, but none of the rest of the house has any. So where should I have smoke detectors?
Well, at a minimum, you should have a smoke detector right inside each bedroom,
Okay.
and then immediately outside that bedroom, like in the hall, the common hall area, one detector outside in the common hall, and then one directly inside the bedroom. Say if you're on a second level of your home, there's not a bedroom located there, you'll want at least one detector on that level. I would say close to the staircase.
Okay.
You know, the same would go for the basement. If you don't have the bedroom in the basement, you'll put it right as you start up the stairs in the basement area on the ceiling. And I want to throw out there too about placement. When you put these smoke detectors in the locations that they go, there's recommended practices for that. If you mount that detector on the wall, you want to mount it 4 inches below the ceiling, no lower than 12 inches below the ceiling.
Okay.
If you mount that on the ceiling, you'll want to go out 4 inches from the wall and mount it on the ceiling. So there's a couple different. Not only is there where do I need it, but how do I mount it, kind of thing. And recommended practices for the kitchen is you want that detector at least 10 feet away from a cooking appliance. That way it'll cut down on any kind of false alarms you may have from cooking dishes. And also just kind of watch out for if you've got any kind of air conditioning, heating type vents in the ceiling. You kind of want to move them away from those areas because they can be a false alarm with that air type movement.
So a lot of the other videos I saw about talking about the kitchen said don't put them in there at all.
Sure.
So, and of course the lithium battery 10-year detectors I just showed you say right on the front cover it says kitchen.
Right.
So what is this placement? Does it have anything to do with the CO2 issue?
Well, CO2 is kind of a separate issue altogether.
Mm-hmm.
They recommend your CO2 detectors immediately in a room with a gas appliance, kind of like a water heater, a fireplace. anything that uses a type of gas. You'll want that detector inside that room, and then you'll want one immediately outside the bedrooms. So you could do, say you could do in the hall area, you could do a combination smoke detector, CO2 detector in the
Okay.
hall. That would take care of those situations.
And in the kitchen,
If you have a gas appliance in the kitchen, like a range or something,
Yeah.
you
which we do.
you could put a combo in the kitchen, and that would take care of both elements also.
Okay. I'm just almost talking to you here, counting on my fingers how many more I need to buy. I just bought 4, and apparently I need 4 more. Okay, well, thanks, Jeff, for coming in.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.